Denial is foundational in hell on earth. Look around at how our filthy, inverted, hijacked divinity, Gaia Sophia, and our stolen essences tend to their conditions, forced into survival or slavery, and you will see it everywhere, rampantly crushing most fools in this escalating war on all organic life. Everywhere you look, you'll see it. Denial is an essential foundation of the lockdown species and place that has given so much to all we call Earth and humanity. Denial has robbed many people of any efficacy to do anything to stop the forcing of full spectrum dominance of false self, evil ET gods who are adamantly, proliferously, and powerfully creating a hell realm. It's not 100% here yet, but distraction and denial have done a magnificent job in making sure no one is in their way enough to stop it. Adaptability and mutability is our superpower as a species. But has it been weaponized to get us to adapt to hell, psychological hell, and deny the fact that a psychological and physical prison of nanotech is rapidly being built everywhere? I'm reading the book The Body Keeps the Score. We know soul dyers and victims of childhood abuse and of all stripes develop these strange patterns of coping we call PTSD. Now we're learning most or all of us have horrible CPTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorders, from being raised in this psychological and increasingly physical hell, as beautiful as it is on the surface and in the unexamined layers and in the pretty neighborhoods. And what is the most common response, not only from NPCs? It's denial. And often part of our inner work journey is to really let go of denial of the obvious. And though you may be watching your favorite spoiled ascetic, and for some reason, the only video the algorithm keeps recommending was recorded in this tent. So maybe it's some kind of strange, gaslighty good luck from the AI. But, if the person talking doesn't accept their abundance, and not just preach it, then that denial can rob them of the richness of life, can rob them from the truth. what is the most common response, not only from NPCs and narcissists, psychopaths, human 2.0 cyborg slaves, but nearly all all souls in flesh sacks, in order to maintain some kind of perceived sanity. Across the board, from the boardrooms to the streets, humans seem to persist in their delusional self-acceptance of massive quantities of denial. And the vast majority of us all build, maintain, or do nothing to stop our rapidly escalating digital prison. Oh, what can I do? I'm just one little guy. As Kurt Vonnegut Jr. said in the preface to his book Slaughterhouse-Five, about his experience, a fictional story, I believe, about his experience in the Korean War, the powers of good could overcome the powers of evil if the powers of good can get organized along the lines of the mafia. But if not, fat fucking chance for me to ever have very much fun ever in June or even May in Santa Cruz, California, a town that often always has perfect weather if it was unsprayed, because they take the natural cold morning front or whatever and spray it till I don't see the sun for days, to where today I got about maybe 5 or 10 minutes of sunshine in my morning sun bath, maybe a good 10 or 12%, as much as I need for the first time in days. For the first occasion in days, I got a tiny smidgen of my sunlight. Because geoengineering can say what Santa Cruz's schizophrenic weather is going to be if they decide to control it. The part of my shadow work I don't do can pretty easily kill me if I'm not willing to destroy every ounce of hypocrisy. It's quite easy for those who claim and impose their fake godhood to block my relationship with the sun if I don't go back to another state or place. I can totally, thus, empathize, maybe not on a deep level, but on some level, why folks are willing to be financial slaves, because without physical thick walls, personal bathrooms with hot showers and more ideally bathtubs every day, their flesh sacks could end up like mine on many sprayed days. I know early morning sun with my diet can and will clear out my horrific MRSA and even some of my cancer. And I know I hate most Santa Cruz, California Junes as long as geoengineering exists. Because it's likely to be 2 or 3 weeks of icy cold white skies in the northern hemisphere, giving me seasonal affective disorder in June in the continental United States of America. This could only be possible with filthy fake gods at the helm. And now they've increased it to May because it literally slowly kills me. I'm not trying to play the victim here, but I'm just pointing out that if I don't clear out my own denial, then it's an easy way to get me out of here. Because it literally slowly kills me, feeds my disease, blocks my healing, without any insulation in a tent. Sleeping in a tent, I breathe in inorganic, unnatural aluminum dust clouds filled with strontium, barium, and probably graphene dioxide and self-replicating nanotech all night long. Ain't God a real good killer of the unwilling to be a slave? It works great to prevent so-called ascension, to block the sun, in my opinion, because it blocks solar codes as well as healing and nutrient absorption, and many, many healing rays are not allowed to come in places like Santa Cruz in May or June very often. And not only that, but they replace the divine rays of the real masculine part of the creator, the fiery sun or star, Helios. They replace the vast healing power and beauty of the sun and earth with the immense nanotech robot hell oblivion realm cage of planned obsolescence for all, quick death for all organic beings that, are susceptible. Congratulations, David Keith, Bill Gates, and all the reptilian or whatever evil ETs behind them that handed them this filthy plan. You're really good at blowing up and destroying and lowering the quality of everything and making most weaker and sicker that are on the surface of this earth. You're real good at your morally and spiritually pathetic yet impressive takeover plan. I wrote these notes at the break of dawn, and the owls are saying good night at the break of dawn, and the little birds are singing their dawn tunes. Are they too in denial? They don't have our complex brains. They don't know about geoengineering. They're still thankful to wake up in a realm where we haven't been allowed to see the sun in days. Surely our insane slave masters know how to let us have just enough sun not to fall over and die like I got 5 minutes today out of the hour I needed. We have our unsprayed days like our prison yard hours if you go to jail. They let you go out and play, and they let you go out and have a tiny smidge so you don't, do something really horrible to yourself. A zodiac Cancer sun sign, Ashkenazi Cherokee, who once told me Jews are the most evil people in the world, and I know because I am a Jew. Then he showed me something from the Talmud in his cell phone that I could not repeat here. Barnaby, who sadly had his entire house burned down in the CZU fire, which I feel targeted the truly sustainable hippie town of Last Chance where he grew weed. He did several years in the penitentiary. He got caught growing and selling his own cannabis, and he still did it after he got out. And he had just finished rebuilding his house, and he was 80 when he passed on. And it's really sad because he told me also that the Illuminati were right about death, that he felt that nothing happens after death. So I wonder where his essence is now. But I wrote in my notes once, he once told me, the problem with America is I got mine and fuck you. The acceptance of social Darwinism as a construct that is reality, for example. The acceptance of Abrahamic jihad, the Christian Zionist who feel it is a peaceful, righteous thing that God, Yahweh, insists that we blow up and kill everyone except for a few Christians and Jews And then Jesus is going to come back and save us all after we've killed off almost everyone, who never even think how pathetic and stupid and derogatory and contradictory these ideas are. The acceptance of widespread wage and tax and property slavery these are the foundations, some of the foundations of a future. These have built the foundations for a future of permanent lockdown via "that's just the way it is." Add in the technocracy, add in the self-replicating nanotech colonies, add in, Nick Land's ideas. I'm studying the Hidden America channel. Hidden America, Thrice Great YouTube channel really goes into that technocratic aspect of it. Death and taxes must rule over us all. And if we accept these ideas, it makes us good people. No, it makes us good idiot cannon fodder, good idiot goyim. We cannot question what our 1% criminal overlords do. Don't rock the boat. On a personal level, if I continue to procrastinate and I not decide to breathe in the smart dust, if I don't create a barrier between this flesh sack and smart dust, I will rapidly die. David Wilcock let the uber-powerful Archon parasite overwhelm, destroy him. It could be, if there was some way to prove it, it could be plausibly said that overwhelm killed him, or was a massive part of what took him out of his, whether he killed himself or not, it was overwhelm's involvement that might have tipped him over the edge of sanity to have that self-respect. And yes, I could see why this person, whose channel is called The Afterlife Discussion, has chosen to self-exit. But I'm half Irish by blood, and some moments I think about the old Irish, the saying about Irish people, that when you talk to them about current events, it can be the most depressing people you could ever talk to. But if you talk to them about the ancient past or the future, they could be the most hopeful, because they know, often, intuitively, that the devil is very powerful, but that the devil stole all its power, and that there is a possibility that this hell on earth can be ended. For example, one of the few famous rock stars and pop stars, Van Morrison, who happens to be an Irishman, was one of the few who spoke out against the filthy lockdown, and he came out with the whole album about it 5 years ago. And it's just too easy to be similarly hypocritical as David Wilcock was with himself. The devil is always there in the details. And if David Wilcock had known that the Fed has no right to steal his money, maybe he wouldn't have been pressured so hard by overwhelm. However, the one caveat about not paying the FED I have is that if you are wealthy or famous, they're probably going to fight you over it. I mean, Willie Nelson knew that they didn't have any right to take his money, so he didn't pay them. What did this thug branch of the government, federal 1% robber baron thugs who secretly imposed their rules on us on Jekyll Island, do to Willie Nelson for that? They came in his house and took all his furniture, all his stuff, till they got their money's worth. This is what kind of a government we're dealing with here, folks. So don't ever get it wrong. Don't ever think I ever said that the devil wasn't good at its tricks, or that the thug governments didn't use violence, coercion, and tyranny to achieve their goals, because they obviously have. But it's still theft. The devil is always there in the details, in the ingredients, in the contract, in your thoughts if you haven't done that inner work to let go of the identification with their filthy, archonic interjects, yelling lies. Very few still even seem to acknowledge the epidemic of cluster B personality disorders like narcissistic personality disorder are infiltrating and preventing any revolt. Because even though more and more people are learning about these problems, probably the vast majority who have just begun to learn about this, like I am at the end of the process of, still have a great amount of denial about the prevalence and powers of infiltration, usurpation, and inversion narcissists have over our personal and collective existence. It takes a lot of facing harsh, horrific facts to overcoming denial to begin. And I'm no different. I still have to rebuild trust after the last, it's only been a couple of years since I was residing with narcissistic psychopaths. And just being stuck in denial about this can prevent any revolt, revolution, or collective standing up to the war to take it all. Mostly, they have to get back to work, back to their ego, back to their hubris, back to their positionality in the hierarchy of the matrix, back to feed their sick wetico, back to survival beast mode, back to make peace in their infiltrated circle, full of NPD abuse, back to slavery, or back to codependency, back to disability or the identification as disabled, back to disability money to die alone and sick or hermitage, back to struggling to survive outside of the matrix as a self-possessed hermit, back to the club, on the other hand, or back to the mafia, back to church, back to all kinds of denial. And so long as individually and collectively we go back into states of denial and delusion or distraction, hell on earth will keep growing more intense and horrific. Why do I have this inner duty to speak the truth and make nearly 700 videos mostly about this kind of thing? Our essences are, in their awakened state, a very, very powerful divine spark. They're very, very powerful divine sparks. Why else would they have to go to all this trouble to control us? But here, in this sprayed, geoengineered hell realm, which it is at least in the ionosphere, in the sky, and socially amongst humans and most humans' minds, forced financial slaves, as soul dyers in the U.S. corporation or the IDF or ICE, or cops who are violent, or citizens who are afraid of punishment or afraid of any external threats, or those who get on their knees and do exactly what God tells them to do, because God is love and God insists we all have to suffer. As long as we're in states of fear or denial, we are dumbed down meat puppets. Ensouled humans have to get to the point where, like brave and free Santa Cruz, we openly dispute the authority of the criminals and the evil ETs behind them. We have to openly dispute the validity of permanent lockdown plans, psychological and physical hell on earth, nanotech forced everywhere, Agenda 2030, and openly speak out and organize against it. We must face hell or watch hell usurp it all. Knowing we will be infiltrated. That's right. The voice speaking included. Going to have a community of at least 2 or more gathered in the name of truth. Knowing damn well that in this place somebody is going to be sent in to fuck it up from the dark side, as they always are. But yet, ideally, and if we do our inner work and learn about cluster B personalities, we will be ready to kick their ass out of our group. This is the thing. Knowledge, the meme cliche is very true. Knowledge is power if it is exercised, acted upon. If you have knowledge and you don't act on it, or if you act without knowledge, faith without works is dead. Works without faith is dead. That scripture is very true. And faith in what do I mean? Faith in the internal, divine, harmless, peaceful, harmonious Creator, Christ Sophia, or the essence of you, the spark of the divinity that chose maybe many lifetimes ago to experience individuation in a flesh sack that you call yourself. Be ye as wise as serpents, yet gentler than doves. Another great scripture that really needs to come into play in many lives. Because in denial, it ain't going to happen. Hell is just going to grow. And even knowing we will be infiltrated, we're still going to build a better world that's not violent or stupid or run by the morally retarded just because they have the money. We don't line up to get shot like in the old wars, the Revolutionary War. We don't do things to end up getting assassinated or assassinated in masse. I personally don't protest. We don't do things to cause ourselves harm. And yes, of course, like I say, I have to do that inner work to let go of some of my own denial still. We use print media, the internet, YouTube, websites, other social media, and physical meetings to tell the explicit truth. We volunteer to share the brutal, harsh facts. I use my creativity to destroy the fake world peacefully. To those few who are willing to listen and act upon the actual truth. We arm humans with the information they need to defend themselves in the psychological war, with the goal of prevention of harm and the goal of ending the harm we're already wrapped into. We are the 99%. What would we be capable of with no 1%? When you think about it, if you're really honest with yourself, why do we need any 1% at all, and what good do they do for everyone? There is some good, but it's often flanked and crowned and built with the intention and or each and every one of them are persuaded to go to evil and to do tyrannical things like try to force us to take an mRNA injection. We now know that a lot more around what they do, from the Epstein files to the technocrats openly planning to call all of everything their own possession. The singularity, the Internet of Things, Event 201, the Illuminati revelation of the method. They have to make it look altruistic, and then they can do horrific crimes on everyone. What a incredibly pathetic belief structure they have. The devil is very good at brainwashing and killing and destroying 3D people, beings, essences, or fragments of spirits or NPCs that are terrified into thinking they are just flesh sacks and having no real connection to the actual creator. But the devil doesn't really have any truly good or real connection to the actual creator himself. That's why they have to go to all these lengths to try to destroy and take everything. But they never have any modicum of any self-respect or morality. This could only be possible if this realm were already, to some degree, repurposed into a hell. But that doesn't mean that it was originally or that it will always be. It doesn't mean that we must obey the filthy, stupid shit that they all collectively got together and insist we obey. The Internet of Things, 15-minute smart cities, and now stablecoin CBDC coming in a little bit over 8 months to the U.S. No sunlight access often for days on end around here in the summer months even. No rights if you aren't a financial slave. Think about that, folks. Think about the deep irony. The only reason why I have the moment to record this video is because I'm codependently tied into it in other ways, but not a financial slave. So, if you're not willing to be a financial slave for your legal box, and you're in the wrong place, in the wrong moment, and you don't know your rights, especially, and you're doing the wrong thing, well, you don't have those rights that you would have if you were a financial slave. How ironic is that? The cat is out of the bag, so to speak. Passio will never admit the brain needs cholesterol, apparently. I'll never be able to heal my horrific physical illnesses if I don't change my perception to see more clearly for a much longer duration. I'll admit, I've got to change my perception out of the social condition that I am whatever's in my hand or whatever I'm doing, whatever's wrong with me, my social status. All of that, I'm from a Freemason family. All of that's been, shoved down into my subconscious mind too, even though I know it's stupid. I'm no different. I still have to inner work to do there. Outside of my little me, beyond my flesh sack desires, past the myopic solipsism that seems to be real, while I haven't fully healed from the perceptual hell I learned in narcissist co-fantasy trauma bond situationships, I still have things to let go of. Fake ideas I learned there, the fear, the idea that you can't trust anyone was such a heavy residue of that it takes years often for us to regain self, to trust strangers, to trust other people, to trust your instincts enough to know that it will be okay. To give it a shot, to take the risk. That you're not going to be hammered by every single person. Maybe Andrew Yang's idea could work if nobody was a slave and there was no 1%, no Illuminati, no evil thug ET overlords. His idea was he was running for president, saying that he was going to give every single impoverished person $1,000 a month, even if there was nothing wrong with them. Well, yeah. You see, with all these machines, if they had this idea that instead of we're going to be the biggest AI surveillance robot on the planet and control everything, well, if they automated everything and they could, get rid of slavery and, you'd work a couple hours a week or something like that. It's not a grandiose exaggeration to say that, if behind the scenes there was no devil controlling us all in the hidden details, it's possible that could happen. This talk is zooming in on the first of Passio's AAA shadow work method, which is the essential acknowledgement. If we don't acknowledge that our species, and often individually we have a massive problem with denial, it's never going to change. Imagine if only Christ Sophia and freedom were our deities, if we knew that the truth that freedom and the truth and the divinity who is harmless and respectful that gives us free will, if we all or the majority of humans knew these were the only real deities, if discernment was our main commandment, we don't even need commandments at all. It's just, stupid idea that comes from a tyrant, coercive, trauma bonding, Stockholm syndroming junior god to command. But discernment is the rule of divine humans. Not honor our old filth, honor our tyranny. Imagine if massive greed was known to be what it truly is. An evil alien hijack and sick inversion of awareness. All of their spiritually retarded, morally stupid NWO scams could be ended if we had the awareness collectively. All of this automation, AI, could be trained to tell the truth instead of whatever the overlords want you to think. Imagine if freedom was our real virtue, not just lip serviced like they do in the USA. Is it possible we could build a realm where nobody had to be a slave, where nobody consumed adrenochrome or ate children? In Michael Tellinger's One Small Town initiative, I think the basic requirement on his model is everyone has to work, 3 or 5 hours a whole week, 10 or 20 hours a month. And then that covers your food, your electricity, your water, your housing. Because in a real society, in a society that was really based on love, awareness, understanding, and truth, slavery would not be emeritus, shining, central, essential factor. In a shared earth, financial slavery is seen for what it really is. A waste of massive potential and life for the greed of the few. As people often say, how many normies have to remain slaves for the 1% to live their luxurious, energy-sucking life, death styles? However, in denial, we have the ready-made, Archon-infested, New Cage grifters movement, where all you gotta do is think happy thoughts, meditate, and never look at the boogeyman. Never admit there's anything wrong in your subconscious mind. And make sure you worship your hero who wrote all those great books, who you give all your a ton of money to in those conferences. Make sure you stroke their ego and never question them, because they might just disown you as a friend or acquaintance forever. Because a narcissist hero psychopath is so fragile and weak in their ego, they can't handle one negative comment or anything at all negative about themselves. And that's why none of these people who are famous and well-loved, who have their little cults, will do jack shit or dung to save the world. Because these Archon-infested New Cage grifters movement actually on an industrial scale, with all their YouTube videos watched and their conference tickets sold and their books sold. They are encouraging you to spiritually bypass. Spiritually bypass everything. Stay in denial of the darkness and the evil and the hell realm that is rapidly growing and self-replicating nanotech all around everyone. That doesn't exist. Or if it does exist, what you resist persists, and what you focus on is what you're going to get. 2 lies. 2 flat fucking outright lies that keep hell going is what they will teach you. In the narcissistic personality disordered hyper ego cults of fake individuality, promoting the profitable lies of denial and meritorious mediocrity, because I'm a god and you're just a peasant. So go read my book and meditate, come back to the conference and give me all the money that you didn't spend on rent, because I know it's going to be every cent you didn't spend. Everybody has to die worried about putting a roof over their head. We have to accept the mortal gauge of how much you're worth for every moment of your life. In 2020 and 2021, we saw these psychological principles of overt de facto Satanism, as Passio calls it, put out in the open, put to the greatest test ever, in the greatest takeover experiment ever. And don't forget that the weather warfare and sprayed skies, direct energy weapons involved with geoengineering are not just here to program us with heavy metal dust clouds and nanotech, but they've also been involved. They were also the trigger for the fire in Lahaina, Los Angeles, flooding Asheville, and places all around the world in similar ways. I got my experimental injections. I accepted the incredibly evil false authority of massive coercion. This is what people said and did to try to get back to normal, to get back to peace. When this grand mad scientist experiment was a way to ensure that, since more than half of the flesh sacks accepted this, that we will never get back to peace and harmony so long as the robber barons and their evil ET overlords are in charge. We will get into deeper levels of miasma, remote-controlled slavery, and even sleeper agents. It is understandable to see why someone intelligent like Joshua S. John would believe the surface-level truth that there is no free will, especially in a place like Arkansas, or that people think their free will is only accessible in capitalism, i.e., can I make money off it? If they don't want to spend their entire lives hunting, fishing, or farming, they really want to be sovereign, and they don't want to have to hunt or fish or farm, it's understandable why folks think they have to fit their whatever free will they have into capitalism, because that's the only place it's allowed in where they're from, coming from their cultural perspective, right? Yes, we have to feed and clean these flesh sacks while here. Yes, we must consume other animals' products in the form of cholesterol for our health of our brains. Yet, can you see how deeply groupthink is mind flunk? How essential collectives are in our species. It is quite a pack species. How good the 1% devils and hell know him have been at infiltrating or steering nearly all groups, and why we have to be together anyways, even if we have to begin by doing it on YouTube. Can you see how important both your individuality, your personal essences, clarity, and edification and community all are? How easy it often is to seemingly for the filthy false self-gods to ruin it all. Can you see how easy it seems? Well, they must have worked really hard to ruin everything as well as they have. But they sure make it look easy. Why do they need to dump millions of dollars worth of extremely toxic heavy metal dust to block the sun? Why are we being forced to be slaves on a planet or place we were born on? And now give the deceivers everything and all? Is it because, like the AI slop Gnostic channels insist, the demiurge built this? No, the demiurge didn't build this earth. The demiurge built this incredibly morally pathetic and spiritually retarded, inverted, fake-ass so-called civilization. Well, unless you have some kind of physical sickness like me, you don't have time to consider that. Now, do you? You've got to get back to work. Look how massively the Archon can and will thwart our dreams, if possible, through, cluster B personalities being sent our ways, through alien love bombs, alien love bites, as Eve Lorgan's book was called. How they will try to control those dreams in such obvious ways, through our proclivities, through our addictions, through our sex, through our thoughts of who we are, through making us socially as retarded as possible and undiscerning, and any level of denial that they can infest us with. What could I do with my creativity if there was no sprayed skies and almost no slavery? If I didn't feel that, yes, I had to choose to use my creativity to fight in this obvious war for everything? Would I feel like I had to fight the devil's filthy tyranny if it weren't so extremely hot right now? Yes, the memory wipe knowledge can cause anhedonia if we cannot deny it. Yeah. Knowing about the afterlife memory wipe really makes you think, man, I wish I had just taken that blue pill instead of the red pill. This is horrific. But maybe years later, if you really, I can't imagine learning this in my mid-30s like some of my friends here, but bad enough learning about it in my late 40s, but, we must face even that tyranny, because there's no way you're going to escape it if you don't face it. If I don't practice what I often discuss and do, the gut-wrenching shadow work, what do I have to look forward to? If almost everybody is so terrified they accept the Abrahamic false self-gods and their violently stolen authority, the governments using big bullying, torture, coercion, and killing to force their tyranny since the conquistadores here in California for hundreds of years now. If people in expensive regions such as Santa Cruz all continue to be worse, or most of them continue to be worse and worse financial slaves, what do you expect? What do you people who live around here expect to see in the future? Do you even think about that? If you live here and you just go along with it, there's a reason why my several landlord so-called friends have never watched a single one of my videos. Like the majority, I felt a ton of pressure to deny some of my basic needs, which is, obviously why in some regards I'm a boy man, and I know that must change. If almost no ensouled humans accept the truth, what will occur? Fear, coercion, violence, and denial will keep building the foundations of hell. Mortal gauges will keep funding wars. I was watching Rob's interview with Elena Freeland on Typical Skeptic podcast on Rumble last night. And she said that to join NATO, Elena Freeland said that to join NATO, countries have to accept 15% of their gross national product must be devoted to geoengineering. They make them pay for this filth dump. 15% of the gross national product has to be devoted to this filth to join their stupid club. When my mother called me to tell me she was going to take the mRNA shot, Moderna, I told her to watch Bill Gates' 2010 TED Talk. And she got back with me and said, he just wants to help people. Then I told her after she did it that there's a law that's around the same time as that TED Talk, I think 2010, came out, that under the tyranny of the Obama years, that if you take one of these experimental shots, you are their possession of the company. So I said, another occasion I told her, now you're Bill Gates' possession. She said, I would be honored to be his possession. I come from a Libra Pollyanna full of denial. I know how difficult it is to get out from under that flood of fear, of delusion that denial is. But if we do not face denial, it will keep building the foundations of hell, keep funding wars, self-replicating nanotech colonies will continue to grow, everywhere, not just in these obedient, but in the sky, everywhere. Not just in human 2.0 cyborg slave bodies. These gadgets will keep distracting us from our awakening with all of their compelling lies and games. And then we have, of course, addiction. Addiction can really feed into denial very often. The more of a hardcore addict you are, of course, you're going to have a lot of denial. Forced poverty. And thus, disease maintenance and massive learned helplessness will dominate many lives, so long as those involved remain in denial. Your fear, avoidance, and willful ignorance, denial, is very important to your overlords, so long as they're here tyrannizing us all. Whether your cell is comfy or horrific, whether you're in a fat house or a tent, living in your car, or whatever, nothing will ever get better in this realm as long as spiritual bypassing, fear, and delusion, unless it's confronted and ended. Denial will keep on building a very strong, stolen foundation for hell on earth. We have to do the inner work and get together. We have no choice in these matters. Otherwise, if we're not willing to do that inner shadow work and get over ourselves, get over our Archon introjects, and live and exist in joyful community. Otherwise, denial will increase the prison overall. Really, in actuality, hell on earth and the truth are mutually exclusive. If you really accept the truth, you will deny hell. You will deny hell's ability to control you if you really recognize the truth is the foundation of the actual life. And yes, of course, these deceivers had to mix the truth in to build the foundation of denial and lies, or it would have never worked. We do have to work. We do have to serve each other. We do have to do diligence. But you cannot do your due diligence in the legacy mainstream media or on a platform where you only look at stuff that's really popular. Guess who I'm talking to here? Certain folks that share videos, but only really popular ones. Why don't you share one of my videos? Get over that control from the AI. Because it's becoming more and more apparent that, I'll say it again, hell on earth and the truth are mostly mutually exclusive. There is massive goodness and creative brilliance. Creative, brilliant godhood trapped in humanity. And why is it trapped? Because the tyrant overlords, the Archon introjects, the wage slavery, the hell on earth is controlling the vast majority here. So it gets trapped. but it must be excavated, rediscovered, plus our DNA needs to be replugged. After narcissistic abuse, will deny this truth. To escape or end hell, we must face the harsh facts first. We have to create the space and freed duration. Let go of timing and come into the timeless now as much as we can. Work off the clock. Become an independent contractor, or better yet, become an interdependent expansionist. We have to have the space and free duration to uncover and meticulously, in a steadfast way, grow our divinity. Just like the devil so masterfully, slowly destroyed it, so meticulously went into the details of most of our or all of our lives and fucked things up, we have to read the ingredients and just as meticulously go into our subconscious minds and our actions and words to very diligently build a real realm. We have to build the actual humanity again. And if you're still watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, well, make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Odyssey, Rumble, Instagram, or BitChute. And put some comments in here. If you watch this whole thing for a whole hour and you care that much, care to give me a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought about this talk and what you have done to get over denial.